Okay, as you can tell, I am back. So the American Legislative Exchange Council, this neo-Nazi right-wing organization, I know that's redundant, put together by the Koch brothers, which is trying to kill people of color, just absolutely destroy them without doing the obvious, introducing crack into a neighborhood or making sure that anyone can buy a semi-automatic military-style assault rifle. No, they're going at it differently this time. They have a pandemic. They have a virus that is willing to work with the American Legislative Exchange Council, the Koch brothers, Alec. They have a lethal partner, a virus. So what they're doing is introducing bills in various state legislatures that inhibit, if not outright prohibit, the actions taken by public health officials to save people's lives. And again, please understand. I mean, all you have to do is pick up the daily paper, go to your favorite website, read. The people most, as a percentage of their population getting sick and dying, are not white people. They're not. And that's true globally, not just here. In an interview, this Nazi son of a bitch, Jonathan Hauenschild, Alec's staff policy expert, on this legislation that these bastards are writing, said that from early in the pandemic, he viewed the use of emergency powers by various governors as problematic. It was interfering in killing as many non-white people as possible, right, you son of a bitch? This is what Hauenschild said, quote, "I started to see that once a branch of government realizes power they didn't have before, they don't give it up unless they're forced to. Some governors still aren't giving up their power." Oh, it's all about power. Whose, you fascist prick? Whose power? That's right. The power of Alec. Right, Jonathan? The power of the Koch brothers. The power of, oh, Jesus. Anyway, the legislative members of Alec wrote something called Emergency Limitation Act in 2020. And it was finalized in early January this year, just in time for the various states' new legislative seasons. And this Nazi prick, Jonathan Hauenschild, he's Alex's staff policy expert on how to write this Nazi bullshit. He said that he has seen the Model Act's influence in new laws in Indiana and Kentucky. Yes, where certain emergency orders now expire after 30 days unless the Christian Fascist General Assembly approves an extension. And there are few protections to purchase firearms. Got to get the guns in there too, right? So Alec's model legislation, which public health experts believe would leave states defenseless in an emergency, is not, absolutely not, according to Mr. Hauenschild, absolutely not motivated by ideology. Oh, what would ever make you think that? Instead, this Nazi prick says, quote, "It's really just trying to inject a little bit of accountability into the system." End quote. A little bit of accountability into the system. Now, the Christian fascists and the right-wing assholes in this country, they hear that type of language and their bobbleheads start bobbling. That's what we need. Accountability. All those Black Lives Matter people should have been arrested. Accountability. Oh, Jesus. Now, lest I leave you with the wrong impression, Alec, the American Legislative Exchange Council, the Nazi group run by the Koch brothers, that's not the only Nazi group behind this sudden flurry of these recent bills. According to the Washington Post, an aide to a Massachusetts state representative, one Nicholas Boldiga, a Republican, the aide said that the state rep's office worked with the Pacific Legal Foundation. Now, the Pacific, there's a Pacific Legal Foundation, there's a Southeastern Legal Foundation, there's a Northeastern Legal. These are John Birch Society organizations put together in the 70s. I was working at an alternative newspaper here in Atlanta in 1975 or 76, 77, somewhere around there, when the Southeastern Legal Foundation was chartered here in, obviously, the Southeast. And I can remember I and a couple other writers at the time just screamed and shrieked and tore up the furniture and battered the scenery to warn people that the Southeastern Legal Foundation was a neo-fascist organization. It was a front group. It was a fifth columnist. It was a destroyer of democracy. But saying that kind of shit here in the South, back in the late 70s, you might as well have been pissing into the wind. Now, the Pacific Legal Foundation, which is, by the way, based in Sacramento, it advised this Massachusetts state representative about imposing in that state of Massachusetts this 30-day sunset law on emergency orders. So emergency public health orders that are issued by a governor in the face of a public health crisis and on the advice of the public health officials within his or her state, that now can only run in Massachusetts for 30 days if it becomes law. 30 days. And then it ends. And then in order for it to be renewed, the entire legislature has to make the decision. Now, I'm not so naive as to believe that every single state governor is going to act in the best interest of his citizens. Of course not. But when it concerns public health, this is where public health officials within a state, they have access to every form of media available. So if they were advising that everybody should wear a purple dot on the end of their nose in order to stave off a bubonic plague, and it was proven that the purple dot would do that, and the governor said, no, nobody gets to wear a purple dot, well, the public health officials would immediately go public. And the people would say, wait a minute, if all it takes is a purple dot on the end of my nose to stave off bubonic plague, what the hell is my governor telling me I can't have a purple dot? I know it's stupid. It's stupid. Then you have a legal policy director named Daniel Dew, D-E-W, for the Pacific Legal Foundation. This Nazi prick estimates that his group, Pacific Legal Foundation, has had discussions with Christian fascist lawmakers in more than half the states, and his group has been able to trace at least 18 bills that are working their way into law to the model legislation written by the Pacific Legal Foundation, not written by the people of the states involved, not written by the public health officials, not suggested after thought and insight and research by state legislators. No, none of that happy horse shit. Bills written by the John Birch Society dregs, the Christian fascists who operate within these right-wing organizations like Alec, like the Pacific Legal Foundation. That's where the laws designed to kill people of color are coming from. Please get that. Please do your own research. See if I'm right. See if I'm full of shit. Do your own research. Montana State Representative Matt Regier, he's a Republican, said he received input from the state chapter of Americans for Prosperity, another Nazi network funded by the Koch fortune. The Koch, not C-O-K-E, not Coca-Cola, K-O-C-H, Koch fortune. And that limits the sort of executive actions that can be taken during an emergency, including by putting into this bill certain, are you ready? Religious exemptions, and ensuring that the legislature gets to weigh in after 45 days, not 30, but 45. And the Christian fascists, they'll be able to do what the fuck they please. The Jews and the Muslims and the atheists and the agnostics and the Hindus, they're going to have to abide by the whatever the legislation or the emergency orders from the governor might be for at least 45 days. But the Christian fascists, we don't have to pay any attention to that shit. Oh my God. Now, that particular, the one I just told you about in Montana, backed by Americans for Prosperity. You mean Americans for Death and Disease against people of color. That measure gained approval in the Montana legislature over Democratic objections, and it was signed into law by Republican Governor Greg Gianforte. It's now law in Montana. Oh, my God. So these fascist networks, and please don't send me an email that says, boy, you sure throw the word fascist around a lot. What the hell would you call it? Huh? But these fascist networks are building incredible resistance to vaccine mandates. I mean, they went after black folk. They went after gay folk. They went after trans folk. They went after gender-neutral bathrooms. They went after this. They went after that. Anything that these Christian fascists don't like, they get to work and make sure that it is destroyed. And they don't like colored folk. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.